When you were down there, what kind of actual work did you do? I mean, you were with these people who three of their leaders had been murdered by the police force and by the forces of the state. What actually, as a young law student coming out of Loyola and now at DePaul Law School, what was your role? What was your daily activity? What can you share with us that would inspire other young people who want to serve the people, body and soul? What would you do?
Well, my role is mostly solidarity, so I don't know Mexican law. It's a civil system very well. So I wasn't like writing briefs or something that you might do in the States as a law clerk, which was fine with me. Mostly what I did was be with the people, which I think, unfortunately, because of my American passport and my sort of traditional American features or the way I look. I mean, I just look like a white person who has some privilege.
You'll be able to check her out on YouTube. Go to Heartland Media. That's one word, and you'll find a lot of these shows. Go ahead.
So I don't look indigenous, and I think not looking indigenous and looking Western actually, sadly, is a protection for them to have somebody with them that looks like an outsider. I often felt like my greatest value to them was that the Mexican government didn't know who I was, and I would go to these. We went to 4 meetings with the Mexican government, the most recent one in Washington, D.C., and I accompanied them to all those meetings. And I felt like my greatest strength is that the Mexican government doesn't know that I'm just a law student and I don't know anybody. As far as they were concerned, I could have known someone very powerful and been reporting everything they said. So I think the value was in being there and showing some sort of Western support and showing that someone outside of the state of Oaxaca knows what's happening, and we do value human life.
Well, when you met with the Mexican government in D.C., who met with them? Just you or with other people, too?
So, obviously, I'm just the law clerk, so their real lawyer was there. And like I said, I was just accompaniment. We met with members mostly of the state government of Oaxaca and just one member of the federal government. And we met with them in a hearing before the Inter-American Commission, the international body I mentioned before. And it was sort of just like a meeting. Why don't you scrap it out in front of this neutral body and we'll take notes? I mean, it wasn't the type of thing where you get an outcome and some sort of judge says, well, you're right and they're wrong. The idea is just to have some oversight in the meetings. And what we were trying to say is, since these murders happened, nothing has been done to protect these people. And I think that was very clear from the evidence that day.
Tess Kleinhaus, what do you see happening down there in Oaxaca in this little village?
Well,
and what do you want to have happen?
I'm very hopeful that this week, with the increasing pressure, the Mexican government will send in some sort of federal police force to try and secure things. Normally, in Mexico, you would never, ever ask for the federal police force to be anywhere because they have their own very egregious human rights violations. However, because they're not connected with the state governor, I think that you could hold them accountable more easily. So I'd like to see them there. I'd like to see a public telephone. I'd like to see a neutral person come in and try and arbitrate the dispute about the land itself. And I think all of those pieces would be an excellent start.
Well, what would you suggest to all of the hordes of listeners that we have here that would, on WLUW's Live from the Heartland show, what would you suggest they do? I know you have a phone number for the Mexican government.
Yes, I would like them to call the Mexican embassy in Washington, D.C. and complain about the situation. You don't have to say anything terribly complicated. You can just say, I care about the people in Santo Domingo, and I want them to be protected from a massacre. That would do it, I think. And the phone number is 202-728-1600.
One more time.
202-728-1600.
And who will that get us when we call that number?
That will get you the Mexican embassy in Washington, D.C.
All right, so flood the phone lines. Let's do it. Now, in the last few minutes of this segment of Live from the Heartland on the 6th of December, Tess Kleinhaus, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in going to law school and what brought you to issues of social justice. You came out of Cincinnati, which was famed for Father Coughlin, a Nazi supporter back in the Second World War. It's a conservative town. You're not a conservative woman. Tell us a little bit about your personal path to this place where you're working for social justice.
Well, Cincinnati has some nice qualities,
oh, yeah.
But it is a very conservative place.
It's got a team called the Reds.
Exactly. And so I think most of my background in this comes from, well, originally Catholic social teaching and being brought up in that faith, which if you ever stumble upon Catholic social teaching within that religion, which takes some effort, it really says a lot about protecting people and a preferential option for the poor. So I think that's inspiring. In college, I had the opportunity through Loyola to visit a town in Guatemala that is indigenous, and I decided to live there after college for 4 months. So that increased my awareness of indigenous rights issues. Also in college, I visited Sarajevo and visited with some people who had been through that conflict. So as a result of those, just building those personal relationships, I felt like we needed some sort of system of oversight, and I wanted to learn about international human rights law for that reason, which DePaul has a great program for that. So that's how I got settled in there.
Well, you're certainly all about social justice. That's good. And I'm glad you found the progressive teachings in the Catholic Church. It always seems like there's a lot of division in the church around social justice issues. We see it right here on the campus. We see it in our communities, and I'm always rooting for those priests. May they someday be some women priests too,
right?
Who are looking out for the little people.
That's right.
All right, Tess, thanks a lot. Is there any
Thank
way
you.
people can contact you? Do you have a website or a phone number or a email that you want anyone who would be interested in knowing more?
Sure. I can give an email address. It's just my name, so I'll spell it for you. It's Tess, Tess, .Kleinhaus. That's KLEINHAUS @gmail.com. No spam, please. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're great. Big round of applause from all the people here in the studio. We're going to take a musical break before we bring up James Tracy, where we're going to talk about organizing poor and working white people here in Chicago and beyond. And we're going to listen to, who we're going to listen to? We were talking about
Calexico.
Calexico, border music. All right, we'll be right back with more Live from the Heartland. Don't go far. We'll be right back.